Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you. My name is Neil if you're new, and we're talking potential playoff hockey here. We're talking about if the NHL season ended today, what would the matchups be? A couple of years ago, that was a silly video, okay? It was a ridiculous video because it was impossible. The season just wouldn't end. Then COVID hit. And then it actually happened. So while this is a bit of a silly video, and yeah, it's extremely unlikely that the game's going to stop today, the season's going to stop today, and we're going to go into the playoffs. It doesn't make sense even in a wild COVID year or whatever. But still, it's something cool to think about because I like examining potential matchups. Because while I'm in a situation right now as a Canadiens fan, hey, my team's not in it. They're not going to make the playoffs. So I'm an outsider looking at the potential matchups, thinking about, wow, what if they actually ran into each other during the playoffs? That would be an amazing series. So we're going to look at all the potential matchups. If the season ended today, these would be the matchups going into the NHL playoffs. Let's look at them and let's decide which ones may be the best as far as excitement, storylines, general hockey, all that good stuff. And then you guys, at the end of the video, if you have a couple of minutes, go down to the comment section and let me know what you think about these series. Which one would you like to see the most? And which one is like, meh, I'll probably skip that one. But anyways, let's get into it. And let's start off with actually the Eastern Conference. And we're going to do the first one that lines up, and that's going to be the Rangers versus Washington. Now, up until recently, this would just be kind of a regular series. It's a metropolitan matchup that is a little bit interesting, but nothing that a lot of people are going to tune into right away. The Rangers have grown a lot in the last couple of years, which is interesting in itself, but I don't know if that really makes them interesting where a large portion of people are kind of coming in and watching these games. Washington's been very good for the last decade or plus, and so again, not really a lot of interest there, but people are tuning in now because of the drama. And the drama is Tom Wilson and Ryan Reeves and the little bit of a history between these two teams in the last couple of years. So this isn't really exciting because of maybe the growth of either team or one trying to remain its status up high like Washington. It's about the drama and what could happen between these two teams drama-wise in the first round. Is there going to be a big fight between Tom Wilson and someone else? Is Ryan Reeves going to fight someone else? Like, this could be a very physical series. Now, I don't know if it's going to line up because there's teams have highs and teams have lows, and who knows where these teams will land. But that's you can't even think about that for this video because this is about the potential matchup. Would this be an exciting series to watch? That's kind of the answer that I'm looking to throw to you guys and myself as well. And yeah, this would be a very exciting series to watch. So this one gets the seal of approval from me. I would love to see this series. Let's move on to the next one, which is Florida versus Boston. Now, Boston isn't the same team that they used to be 10 years ago, okay? They're not as big, they don't play as physical, they're not as strong, they're a little bit more on the responsible side, a little bit less defensively responsible though, maybe a little bit more offense, a little bit less defense, but they can still throw it, and they can still play a tough game. And we know how big Florida is, we know how physical that they can play, and how aggressive and angry that they can be a lot of times. And these two teams, although it's not a typical rivalry, there is a little bit of hate there. And I think that could kind of spark up in this first round. So while this isn't a matchup that we've seen, I don't even know if we've ever seen these two teams play in the playoffs before. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think so. Who knows? But there could be something here. This could be the start of a rivalry. They're both Atlantic Division teams, and they're both physical. So I don't know. This one's a little bit on the fence for me. I would tune into it though because I would like it because I really like watching Florida playoff hockey. And I mean, as a Canadiens fan, I would be cheering against Boston. Sorry, Boston fans. But this one also gets a thumbs up. But right now, the New York Rangers and Washington one is at the top for me as far as the one I'm looking forward to the most. Let's move on to the next one, Pittsburgh versus Carolina. This one for me is probably personally the one that I'm least interested in. There's been so much Pittsburgh hockey in the last 5-6 years. They've done so well. And it's great. I've actually watched a ton of Pittsburgh just in regular season hockey in the last couple of years. I don't know why, but I have. But I still feel a little exhausted from Penguins playoff hockey, so I probably wouldn't tune in too much here. Also, Carolina, I think I'm mostly excited to see Carolina in the later series, like round 2, 3, maybe the finals, hopefully. So I don't know if this one would be one that I would seriously jump to. So I'm going to put it in third spot for now, which is, I guess, the order that we've talked in it as. So right now, Rangers Washington is at the top. Florida Boston is next, and then Pittsburgh Carolina. Now let's move on to the last one in the Eastern Conference, and that's going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this one really excites me because I feel kind of like Tampa, like I do I feel about Tampa like I do about Pittsburgh. We've seen a lot of Tampa, and I'm almost exhausted a little bit from watching Tampa play. But here's the thing: Toronto has not won a first round series in, I don't know, 95 years. Okay, that's obviously not true, but you understand what I'm saying. It's been a long time. So I think if Toronto stops playing teams in the first round, like a Boston or a Montreal that they maybe have a bit of a rivalry with or something, if they can play a team where Toronto is the underdog instead of the potential, they should win this series, absolutely. If they're the underdog and more people are thinking that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to win the series, I think that's what Toronto needs. And if they're the underdog in the series, there's a lot less expectation for them. Listen, they're the Maple Leafs. There's always going to be expectations there. But overall, I think there would be less expectation. People would assume that Tampa Bay would win, and I think that plays in the Toronto's advantage. And because of that, because of the underdoggedness, that's not a word, of the Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I would be definitely tuning in for this because I would kind of think that Toronto might actually win the first round against Tampa Bay. That might be a silly thing to say because Tampa is still so damn good, but you never know. So this one is going to go in probably the second or third spot for me as far as watchability, but the New York Rangers and Washington Capitals series is still my number one. Let's transition over to the Western Conference and see what the potential matchups are there. So the first one we've got is Colorado versus Calgary. This is a sneaky series. Everyone would likely say Colorado. Their team is incredible, but of all these series that I'm going to talk about here, this one I feel like has the potential for an upset, and I don't know why I feel like that. It's mostly a gut feeling, and I mainly feel like Calgary just could come out and surprise Colorado and catch them off guard. Colorado would go into the series expecting to win, and not just win, but likely dominate. And I just have this weird gut feeling inside myself where Calgary might surprise. And I don't even know if it matters who Calgary played in the first round. I just get this weird feeling about Calgary that they might shock some people in the first round. So Colorado, look out if this is a potential matchup. And again, I mean, I'm mostly wrong all the time. But still, I get the gut feeling, so I'm going to go with it. But Colorado-Calgary, I think, would be a good series in general. It wouldn't be my favorite, so maybe third or fourth as far as, if I'm ranking these as enjoyment. Let's move on to the next one. We've got Vegas versus Minnesota. So this is a bit of a rematch rather. And I think there's a lot of appealing things about this series. And again, we've watched a lot of Vegas hockey in the last couple of years, in the playoffs specifically, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not exhausted like I am with Pittsburgh and Tampa, so I would be watching for sure. And Minnesota is one of those teams that have just kind of came out of nowhere in the last 2 years. And again, this year, they're playing some pretty good hockey, and it's enjoyable hockey to watch. So I'm definitely tuning into this one. I would have a really hard time picking a winner because Minnesota's looking for revenge. Vegas is looking for getting back to the finals. And there's a lot on the line, I think, for both teams, and that's worth tuning in for. So I think because of the small rivalry, because of the rematch potential, and because both these teams are interesting just individually as far as seasons go into the playoffs, yeah, I'm tuning into this one. I'm probably going to put this one maybe around third or fourth, again, kind of mid-pack, I guess, in this ranking, but I'm absolutely watching some of these games. Let's move on to the next one. This one is one of the most interesting series, potentially. So if the season ended today, St. Louis and Nashville would play each other. Now you might say, well, what's special about St. Louis and what's special about Nashville? Nashville's made the playoffs in the last 5 or 6 years. They had that 1 year where they went all the way, but other than that, they haven't really done that much, and they haven't really, been that exciting since that one crazy run to the finals there. And then St. Louis, they won a couple of years ago, but they win the games and then they lose the games and they're a bit inconsistent. Like what's going on here, Neil? Why are you so excited about this one? I am excited about this one because I think it's going to be one of the most underrated series, if not the most underrated series in all of the matchups here. I just have a feeling that St. Louis and Nashville have a bit of a hatred towards each other, and it's only going to grow if this is a matchup. And this could be like a serious rivalry. If this series happens, it could promote, or could start rather, a really, really interesting rivalry in the NHL. And I know I kind of like the Calgary feeling. I just have this gut feeling about St. Louis and Nashville. If they played each other, it would be such a great series to watch, mostly from an outsider, as someone who is not really emotionally invested in either team, just tuning in to watch some good hockey. There would be really good hockey between Nashville and St. Louis. So I'm a big fan of this series matchup. I'm probably putting this one actually like second. It's right up there for me. That's how interested I would be in this one. And then the last one. This one is a doozy. If the season ended today, Anaheim would play the LA Kings. Not something I would have predicted prior to the season starting, but here we are. 2 Californian teams technically in the playoffs as of today, and it doesn't even matter what team. San Jose could be included in this. San Jose could play Anaheim. It doesn't matter. Anytime 2 California teams meet in the playoffs, it's magic. It's fireworks. It's some of the best hockey I've ever watched in my life. Again, not something I would have predicted 20 years ago, that 2 California teams meeting in the playoffs would be some of the best hockey I've ever watched in my entire life, but it's true. Now, if we go back roughly a decade, these California teams used to actually face off against each other quite a bit. Anaheim and LA have their history, and San Jose has their history with LA, and these teams know each other. Even though a decade has gone by, these teams still know each other. There's still the rivalry there, and it's a bloodbath almost. So of all the series, it seems crazy for me to say, but I would be most interested in watching Anaheim versus LA because, number one, the rivalry. Number two, they're not supposed to be there. I mean, Anaheim, it's great to see them in there. LA, it's great to see them in there. I'm all about it. But they're not the typical teams that we thought we'd maybe see in the first round of the playoffs or in the playoffs in general, regardless of who they play. So, yeah, I'm tuning into this one. This one might be my number one. Rangers and Washington might be my number 2. Maybe it's a fight for the top. I'm not sure. St. Louis and Nashville are up there as well. But as far as teams or series near the bottom, probably Pittsburgh, Carolina, maybe. But I would love to know your thoughts. How do you feel about these matchups? Do any of these matchups excite you and kind of get you ready for the playoffs? It seems weird to be talking about the playoffs right now, but it's coming up, and it should be fun. And I know this has been a weird year with lots of people, lots of injuries and lots of COVID restrictions and people being out of the lineup and lots of players being called up. And as you guys know, if you've watched any of my previous videos, I've not watched a lot of NHL hockey this year. I feel really emotionally disengaged from it, and it's unfortunate, and I hate it. I just want things to go back to normal so I can enjoy regular hockey. But right now, we're in a situation where this weird NHL season is about to transition into playoffs. We're about to go into the trade deadline, and it's going to get real exciting. Regardless of what's going on, it's going to get exciting. So which of these series interests you the most, and which doesn't? Which of these series would you skip? I'm not watching any games from that. Would love to hear from you. If you have a couple minutes, please go down to the comment section, leave your thoughts down below. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you did like this video, please hit the like button. If you are new and you like the content and maybe want to see more, please hit the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Adios.